All right, everybody, welcome to episode 48 of the VF Cast. I am VF Baller, and today we're going to talk about sixth generation consoles. Hopefully, you guys have some feedback. Maybe, maybe not, but if you guys are sitting around listening, I appreciate all of that because this generation was a generation where I felt like video games took a huge leap. Um, Even from the fifth generation when we thought the N64, the Saturn, and the PlayStation 1 was a big deal. Yeah, they were a big deal because most of that stuff was, they was starting to get into 3D polygons and stuff. But this sixth generation was the generation where things changed. And I'm going to talk about that, everything under that umbrella, and my thoughts and opinions about why this generation is probably, hands down, I ain't gonna say probably, it is my favorite generation. Even though, the PlayStation 3, PS4, PS5, the Xbox 360, the Xbox One, those consoles are great in their own right, especially the PS4. I mean, the PS4 basically took over what the PS2 did, but, that's another story for another day. We'll get into that at another time. But this generation here was probably my most favorite generation and the most simplest generation. I think it was the most simpler generation in general. I mean, even though the other generations had easier plug and play, but we'll get into that. If this is your first time here, welcome. This is the VF Cast. I am VF Baller. Over here, I talk about gaming and everything under that umbrella. And not too long ago, I just made a recent video about the Anbernic 503, which I have it in this case right here. I will be doing a review on this. Also, I've talked about a couple other things on the channel. Just check out all the content that is on this channel if you don't mind. Getting close to 100 subs, and it's all thanks to you guys. So if you don't mind liking and sharing this video, let people know what we're doing over here. That'd be great. Let's go ahead and get into this. I've talked enough. I remember 99.99. I went to buy a Dreamcast, and I kind of skipped over the PlayStation 1. I played it a little bit. I wasn't a big fan of CD based games because I started with with cartridges. So I jumped from the N64 to the Dreamcast. And one thing that really jumped out to me about the Dreamcast was, I know this is kind of weird, the 4 controller ports, because the N64 had it. So when I saw that, I was like, okay, this is about to be a thing. 4 controller ports is about to be a thing. And I didn't really get into the Saturn that much, but when I saw what the Dreamcast was capable of and how much the system was, I was like, yo, I'm buying that. So $99.99, I bought a Dreamcast day one. I bought like NFL 2K. I bought a couple other games to go along with it. And I enjoyed it. One thing about the Dreamcast I liked was the graphics and how clean the graphics were. This was one of the first consoles that used VGA, but I didn't know anything about VGA, but I did know about S-Video. So even back in 99, I was using S-Video for the Dreamcast, and I thought it was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen, as far as video games go. I mean, I played Donkey Kong Country on the Super Nintendo, which still holds up very well today. All the other good Super Nintendo games that looks really good. The N64, those games look great if you played them on a CRT like the one I have behind me. I thought those games looked phenomenal. Ocarina of Time, N64, other games on N64, I just love playing. But when I jumped over to the Dreamcast, it was a game changer. I started playing games like NFL Blitz on the Dreamcast. I started playing NFL 2K. I also was playing Soul Calibur. I remember when DOA 2 came out. I mean, those games were great. But I've always been a 2D fighting fan. Always. I always loved 2D fighters. And when Capcom started to support the Dreamcast, when Street Fighter Alpha came out, and you also had Third Strike, you also had Double Impact. I mean, you had all those good fighting games come out. I was like, okay, this is where I'm so happy to be at. And I'm not even gonna talk about the Marvel. I could talk about the Marvel vs. Capcom 1, Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Those games were like phenomenal. arcade perfect basically. We all talk about Street Fighter Alpha 3. Maybe the Saturn did it a little bit better. Maybe the Saturn did a little bit better, but the Dreamcast one was no slouch. Third Strike was pretty good for its time on the Dreamcast, but I don't feel like it was necessarily perfected for home consoles till it got to the Xbox. Now, I can get into the Dreamcast, all the other games, the Power Stones, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Ikaruga, Giga Wing 1 and 2. Those games was just phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. There's so many other games that we could talk about. Phantasy Star Online. I just talked about Soul Calibur. The racing games. Sega GT. Test Drive. F355 challenge. It is so much that you could play on there. They have monster truck games. The Dreamcast was a console that was way ahead of its time. It used VGA, so it started out with 480p back in 99, 2000 was insane. It was something that, nobody really thought about and really could pull off unless if you had a computer monitor. And, the Sonic Adventures, the list can go on and on. Crazy Taxi. It was an arcade beast. It was like a system that, that displayed arcade perfect games, in my opinion. NBA Showtime, NBA Hoops, Mortal Kombat 4. What else can you say? The Hydro Thunder. It was that was the console I first fell in love with. Now, my favorite console of all time. Okay, I got something playing in the background. Hold on, y'all. Let me see. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. I had something playing in the background of my computer. So we're gonna get away from that and hopefully everything. Okay, all right, everything good. I don't think y'all heard it or whatever. Y'all probably did, but nevertheless, I felt like this was the console that I loved. I ain't gonna felt it. I knew this was console up until the original Xbox, which I'll get into that a little bit later. But then the PlayStation 2 came out. The PlayStation 2 came out, and what drove me to the PlayStation 2 wasn't necessarily the fighting game. It wasn't necessarily the fighting games or anything like that. In my opinion, the Dreamcast had that on lock. The Dreamcast had that on lock. It was nothing about the Dreamcast that nothing about the PS2 I liked about the fighting games. It was all about the Dreamcast and that. But what gravitated me to the PlayStation 2 was Madden. When I first saw Madden in the PlayStation 2 form, that was great. It was something that I was absolutely pulled to. Now, if you know anything about me, I'm a football fan. I love football. And when I started playing Madden 01, Madden 02, I was like, okay, this looks great. Then the NCAA games came out, and the NCAA games started to play just as good, if not better than Madden. Then you could take those draft classes from the PS2 NCAA game and put it on a PS2 Madden. There were two games fused into one. And that was something that I was really into. It was something that I could not stop playing. And to this day, I still play them. I still have footage of me playing NCAA 08 and Madden 08 on this channel. Now, granted, it's for the Xbox, but it started out on a PlayStation 2. Now, let's go. Do I need to get into the PlayStation 2 library? Should I get into the PlayStation 2 library? My God. You can start off with Twisted Metal. You can jump into the God of Wars. You can talk to the Ratchet and Clanks, Sly Coopers, Prince of Persia, Eco, Shadow of the Colossus, Dragon Quest, the Dragon Quest 8 in general. Even with some of the fighting games, the PlayStation 2 started to get fighting games down the road, and it was actually pretty, good. I think Bloody Roar was necessarily on the PlayStation 1 and 2. Bloody Roar 3 came out for the PlayStation 2. Tekken 4, Tekken 5, which Tekken 5 is probably my favorite fighting game on the PlayStation 2. Tekken 5 is just phenomenal. That and Tekken Tag. Those two just beautiful looking games. Beautiful looking games. And I just everything about it. Man, I can't even remember I don't even know how to continue to with this list. The Yakuza 1 and 2. The Mega Man 7 and 8, which not too many, Mega Man X 7 and 8, which most people don't really, look into that. Most people don't look at those games like that because they feel like they're outliers. But my main thing is I felt like it was all good with the PlayStation 2, especially with the sports football game. When that came out, that was a wrap. I mean, I did not play. I did not really touch on NFL 2K too much of anything. I don't get me wrong. I didn't start playing NFL 2K to 2K5, which that looked great on the PS2 as well. My main thing was I was real big on the Dreamcast still. Even though the PlayStation 2 was out, I was still big on the Dreamcast. I primarily just played the PlayStation 2 for the Madden and NCAA. Now, don't get me wrong. I ended up playing other games like God of War. I played the Ratchet, a little bit of Ratchet. I didn't play too much of Ratchet and Clank. I played a little bit of it. Sly Cooper is the same. Also, I decided to get into Jak and Daxter last year. Didn't realize how well those games played. Gran Turismo, phenomenal racing game. And I still play Gran Turismo to this day. Not Gran Turismo 7, which we're not going to talk about Gran Turismo 7 right now. I mean, my God. I mean, they just ruined the series with Gran. But Gran Turismo 4 is still a good one. Gran Turismo 4 is a good one. Also, I felt that there's other games the other racing games that came out that was really good. Enthusia, Professional Racing is a good one. We also had some arcade perfect style games like even though the King of Fighters, they had some really good run of games of King of Fighters on Dreamcast. The PlayStation 2 did pretty good as well. And I think one thing about the Dreamcast and the PlayStation 2 when it came to fighting games, their games kind of intertwined a lot. I mean, you look at the King of Fighters 2000, 2001, 2002, even if you go back to King of Fighters Evolution, which is King of Fighters 99, which I don't think PS2 got a real port of that. King of Fighters 98, which is Dream Match 99 on the Dreamcast. The PS2 got a port of that. But the PlayStation 2 got a port of those SNK games, 2000, 2001, 2002. I think they even got 2003 as well. I want to say that. But when you look at the fighting games over there, when you're looking at, let's see, the Street Fighter compilation, Street Fighter EX3, like I said, you also had the Tekkens, and then you also had Virtua Fighter 4. That game came out. Virtua Fighter Evolution, that came out as well. I mean, I don't even know where the begin and finish. The Final Fantasies, it was a much better time for and before I get into the other two consoles, I want to say it was a much simpler time because these consoles didn't take much to run. You didn't have to worry about being logged on. You didn't have to worry about being, tied to a server for the most part. That stuff didn't start really until the Xbox, which I'll get into after I do the GameCube. But it was just a simpler time. I just don't even know, where to begin to continue to talk. I don't even know how to continue to talk about the PlayStation 2. Big library, the best selling console of all time, and to this day it's still a great console. I have my PlayStation 2 set up over here on my HD CRTV, which I'll talk about that some other time down the road when it comes to 6th generation stuff. But I'm still playing it. I'm still playing this console. I'm still having fun with it. I didn't even talk about the Devil May Cry's or the Metal Gear Solids. I mean, great console. I just can't think about it enough. I mean, there's so much more I could talk about when it comes to that. I mean, I know a lot of people have done a lot of commentary over the PlayStation 2, and it is warranted. Very, very good console. Now, I think the Xbox came out first, and then the Xbox came out first, then the GameCube. They were like right behind each other, like a week apart or something like that. Nevertheless, I'm going to talk about the GameCube because I was a big fan of the GameCube when it first came out because, like I said, I was an N64 fan. So when the GameCube came out, I necessarily had to get that. Did I get it day one? I can't remember. I think I got it a little bit later because I remember getting the Xbox day one. I bought the original Xbox day one, and I'll tell you about that a little bit later. But I love the GameCube for what it was when I first got the GameCube, one of my first games I ended up getting was and this just goes to show I didn't get it day one. What was it? Star Fox. I remember getting Star Fox Assault. That was a great game, and I ended up getting what was the other game? It wasn't Mario. So I think I remember getting Double Dash as well. But nevertheless, I just started getting into the GameCube library once again, and I ended up buying like the Resident Evil 4. Like I said, I had Double Dash and the Sonic Adventure, the port that was over there, Wario World, F Zero X, I think it's GX, Mario Golf, Mario Tennis. I think Mario Strikers is on there. I remember playing that. I don't have that game right now, but I remember playing that. The GameCube has a really good library. Is really good. And I can't remember all the games I have. I know I have them back here, down there at the bottom of my shelf right there. I don't have many, but I just started getting back into collecting for GameCube, and right now those games are starting to be really expensive. But then once again, Nintendo does a beautiful job of putting their console out. And even though the disc was a little bit different because they were a little bit smaller, they were smaller. The console was just a simple console to play with. I mean, even if you had the Game Boy player, I mean, that makes it even better. You could play Game Boy games on the big screen TV. But it was just a simpler time because those games, the Luigi Mansions and all these other games, the Animal Crossings, even with some of the third party stuff, they had like different type of gameplay, or the games were just a little bit different. One thing I will say, the Maddens on this game was actually pretty good too. They were pretty good as well. And one thing about the GameCube that I did like, they had some exclusive games, like the Kobe Bryant basketball game was really good. That was a really good game. As a matter of fact, I still have that game to this day. That game is actually better than advertised. And I remember that was the first time, honestly, this was the first time when I played NBA Street, the first one, NBA Street Volume 1. And I ended up getting Volume 2 on the PS2. But I remember playing the GameCube version. I remember playing, what you call it? Yeah, like I said, NBA Street Volume 1, which I do have that. And like I said, those games are really good. Really, really good. I can get into more detail about the GameCube, but that's another rabbit hole I can go down because Nintendo did a very good job with the GameCube. Unfortunately, some of the games are just starting to go up in price. If you want to get in, you may have missed that one. Right now it's PS3 and Xbox 360. You may want to get into that if you want to collect, but the GameCube, you probably missed that one. Now, one console, last but not least, that you didn't miss on, which the value of the console is starting to go up. These consoles can go up for like $100 now plus, but the games are extremely cheap still to this day. You may find a few of them like the Fatal Frames that may be up a little bit. The Outrun 2006 the Coast to Coast game, that may be up a little bit. There's like maybe 3 or 4 games out there that's probably up there to the point where it's like the price of a PS5 game. But for the most part, the rest of these games are like super duper cheap. That's the original Xbox. Now, this console is my favorite console out of all the consoles that I have. I love the original Xbox. One thing that I do, that I've been blinded by, and I just now started to do this, I've been playing a lot of football games on there. If you know that, if you watch this channel, I've been playing a lot of NCAA 08 and Madden 08. I've been playing a little bit of NBA Live 06 or whatever kids. And those games are great. There's nothing wrong with those games. I love those games. But I've been blinded by the fact that the Xbox, I love that system or whatever, but I should have known that the PlayStation 2 plays those games a little bit better. Do they look better? Color-wise, yes. The colors look better than the Xbox, but do they play better? Yes, and it's because of the controller. Now I can easily switch the controller over and play on the Xbox and rock out. That's what I've been doing anyway. But the PlayStation 2, believe it or not, if you got a slim PS2, you probably got the best version of that console, and that console probably won't break down on you no time soon. You may have a disc situation down the road, but as far as the console itself breaking down, the slim model, you're probably good to go. The Xbox, on the other hand, even though I love this console, and it does have a malfunction issue, like they get old. But as far as playing games on, if you have a good one that works, the original Xbox is probably the best console to have overall. Between that and the fat PS3, which is another console that breaks down, or the PS3 in general, these two consoles are probably the best ones to have in general because the variety of games that you can play, the range of games you can play, and the quality of games you can play. Now, I did say the PlayStation 2 does run a little bit better. Now, I'm talking about that based on the oh goodness, what am I talking about? I just lost train of thought. Based on the football game. But when you look at the football games, but when you talk about the total aspect of what the console can do and how robust it is, and the places where you can put this console to play, the original Xbox is where it's at. They have so many adapters now to play at HDMI, and if you put that game console on a flat screen TV, it looks really good. The PlayStation 2, not so much. The visuals on the PlayStation 2, I think they got the colors right, but that 480i and some games moving into 480p, man, those games look rough nowadays. You really gonna have to put that on a CRT for it to run properly, or play proper. I'm not gonna say run properly, but look good and look in a proper fashion. You have some games on the PlayStation 2 that looks good. God of War in progressive mode, Tekken 5 looks phenomenal. I think King of Fighters 2006 is another game that looks really, really good. But when you look at everything under the umbrella, the Xbox is probably I ain't gonna say it's the bigger or better deal. It's just it's just a more formidable console. Now the PlayStation 2 does play PlayStation 1 games, which out of all of these consoles makes it the more diverse and the most it has the most variety. But for me, I love the original Xbox for what it does. I love the games on it. I love the fact that they had their own line of sports titles, which, another reason why I should pull back from playing like Madden stuff on it, because I can go back and play NFL Fever. I can play Inside Drive. I can play the Lynx golf game, the Amped game, the hockey game that they have. They have some really good games on the original Xbox. Xbox has its own lane when it comes to their titles. Now, another thing, if you really want to get into the Xbox and play a football game that's not Xbox first party, you need to go with NFL 2K5. NFL 2K5, this is in my opinion, outside of emulation, because I know some people are doing some emulation work on NFL 2K5 on a PC. I feel that the Xbox, if you want a really good experience of playing NFL 2K5, play it on the Xbox. Play it on I mean that. Play it on the original Xbox. NFL 2K5 on the original Xbox is a phenomenal game. Phenomenal game. And to me, it don't get any better than that. And I'm serious when I say that. The game is great. I highly recommend it. Also, you can't go wrong with NBA Live 06. You can't go wrong with NBA Live in March Madness 06. Those games look good. NBA Live 06 runs at 720p. You cannot go wrong with that at all. I highly recommend it if you go that route, and I think you have a pretty good time. Outside of that, a lot of Sega Dreamcast ports that games that were supposed to be on the Sega Dreamcast moved over to the Xbox. You also had a handful of good fighting games, I believe, and I know this is an unpopular opinion. I feel like Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is probably it's probably the best version of Marvel vs. Capcom 2 is on the original Xbox. And I know a lot of people say, hey, the Dreamcast one may be a little bit better. And I believe that it's a little bit better because it's it runs straight off the Naomi hardware, and you may be right, but for some reason I just like the Xbox version. Maybe because of the hard drive and all the things you can do a little bit more with the Xbox on the Marvel's Capcom 2. Street Fighter 3, Third Strike, hands down is the best version over there. Dead or Alive, the ultimate version of Dead or Alive 1, 2, and Dead or Alive 3. Great games over there. I don't even need to start with the Forza series. Forza 1 is beautiful, on the original Xbox. Still still if not my favorite racing game to go to overall. And I do love me some Forza 5. I like Forza 7 as well. Forza 4 was pretty good too, but Forza 1, it's just something about that game I really, really love. I love that game. And there's other games that are out there. I mean, I look over here on this bookshelf right here. I have almost 490 games, nothing but original Xbox games. So you kind of know where I'm at when it comes to original Xbox stuff. It's my favorite console out of all of these consoles in general. You know, so this is something that I love. It's something that I like. You know, I love the console, and I cannot, fathom like not playing it the way I want to. I mean, I love it. And my thing is, uh, this right here, the original Xbox was the console that got me really. I'm not saying it really got me into gaming, but it took me. This was the console that took me to the next level of my feelings of gaming. Because at first it was all 2D. They had a little bit of 3D polygons. The Dreamcast came out and tried it out with Shenmue 1 and with 3D or whatever the case may be, Dead or Alive 2. They dibbled and dabbed with the 3D stuff and it was really good. And it was in 480p. But when the Xbox came, the games just felt a little bit more heavier, more robust. It felt like something that it just felt like you owned a really good piece of hardware at that point. And after that, the 360 and the PS3 and all the other stuff came out. But I think that was like the precursor to the newer consoles that was coming out in 06, 07, 08, and I love it. I still play it to this day. I play all of these consoles to this day. And it's something that I really, really, really am thankful for, that I was in the moment when these consoles came out. So that's pretty much it. What I have for this episode. This was a pretty long episode, longer than I thought it'd be, and it worked out. 6th generation, it was a much simpler time. All these consoles here wasn't necessarily tied to online. Didn't have to worry about microtransactions. Didn't have to worry about all this other stuff. You basically just picked up and played. Some of these games needed patches, and I think a couple of them did. I know Hydro Thunder got a patch because it had a problem with working with VGA or something like that. I remember some games on the PS2 got a patch, got an update. I know that Xbox did patches as well with some of their games, but some of their patches was in the form of an updated disc. It wasn't necessarily something online that you downloaded. It wasn't anything like that. So, pretty much that's it. If you like this commentary, hit the like button, share this show, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate you guys getting this channel close to 100 subs. This is my secondary channel. My other channel is the First and Frame Race channel, where I talk about Georgia Southern and Atlanta Falcons football. Over there is mostly strictly sports, so you kind of see where the sports tie into all these consoles were. I know there's a lot of games that I left off, and I didn't want, if I did that, I could talk about these games forever. I could talk about these consoles for another 2, 3, 4 hours. So I didn't want to do that, but you see where the tie into the sports games, fighting games, racing games. That's kind of like my wheelhouse. Sometimes I love the action adventure games as well. So it's a little bit of everything. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Hopefully you guys will return. I will be bringing back more content. I will be talking about this Anbernic. And it was a little Mars, little thing on there. I will be talking about this Anbernic handheld. I'm going to make a review on this. I had this handheld for about 2 weeks now. And man, this thing is misunderstood. It's misunderstood. That's all I'll say. All right, y'all. Y'all take it easy and y'all be blessed. Peace.